Fox News alert, the nightmare in California is not over. 3 major fires continue to burn across Los Angeles. President Biden just getting briefed on it by officials at the White House. Let's listen to that a little bit.
Let me close with a message to the people of Southern California. We are with you. We're not going anywhere. To the firefighters and first responders, you are heroes. Many of these firefighters are out there risking their lives, and some, well, I won't go beyond that, but risking their lives. And while their own homes are in danger, their families are in danger. To the firefighters and first responders, you really are, it's not hyperbole, you're heroes. You're genuinely heroes.
Let's go to Matt Finn. He is live in Altadena, California. Matt, what can you tell us at 5 p.m. Eastern today?
Dana, I spoke with you guys yesterday from the Palisades. Right now at 5 p.m. Eastern, I'm in Altadena, which is 20 to 25 miles inland from the Palisades. So this gives you an idea of the scope and how widespread the destruction is all across LA County. Take a look at this. More devastation, homes, businesses, cars wiped out. I mean, we could show you block after block of this type of destruction here in Altadena. A thick blanket of smoke and haze in the sky. The area we're in right now has been blocked off from the public. Police say you should have a legal or righteous reason to be in here. Otherwise, they are trying to prevent looting, trying to prevent looky-loos, although there are some. And if we pan around to the right, you could see more destruction, businesses obliterated, and up in the distance, we're at the base of the San Gabriel Mountains. There are more fires burning up there near or on Mount Wilson, and that is spewing more ash and debris down into this town. I spoke to 1 or 2 people who lived here. They say they've never seen this type of destruction. I spoke to one woman who says she's trying to find her family pictures so that she can remember what this place looked like. Here's more of my interview with that woman.
This community means so much to so many of us because a lot of us purchased their parents' home or purchased their properties and still live there. And so it's just devastating. I mean, like, I don't even have tears. Like, there's no more emotion. There's no more, you're just kind of like existing.
5 people confirmed dead here in the Altadena area. Back to you guys in New York.
Matt Finn, thank you. Stay safe as this continues. Meanwhile, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass continues to face criticism for being on the other side of the globe as her city burned to the ground, despite knowing the fire risk. Bass proceeded with her trip to Africa as part of a delegation sent by President Biden for the inauguration of Ghana's new president. The mayor looking stone-faced on her way back, and she ignored a reporter's repeated questions about whether she owed an apology to her citizens, and then made matters worse, struggling at a press conference to give folks the simple name of a website.
Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL.
Karen Bass got another chance to prove her leadership during today's news conference. Things quickly got tense. She danced around reporters' questions on why she went AWOL when her city needed her the most.
What explains this lack of preparation and rapid response?
Let me just say, first and foremost, my number one focus, and I think the focus of all of us here with one voice, is that we have to protect lives, we have to save lives, and we have to save homes. Rest assured that when rest assured, let me finish. Rest assured, when that is done, when we are safe, when lives have been saved and homes have been saved.
Do you think your leadership was effective while responding to this disaster?
I just said what I believe is the most important thing for us to do right now.
Do you have any concern about blowing through the reserve before the state and federal money will arrive?
So let me just say that, as I said a few minutes ago, our number one priority right now is to save lives, to protect lives, to save homes.
Kennedy, let's start with you again for an update on a place that you know very, very well.
The Pacific Palisades, still very fluid. People are desperately trying to get into the neighborhood because we're hearing about looters. We're seeing videos of people on bikes Maybe they're scoping out neighborhoods where some homes still stand, and they're convinced that there will be easy passage. And people are really desperate to get in, check on their homes. It's still very difficult to access information. A lot of these neighborhoods, as you can see from the pictures that Matt and Jonathan Hunt have shown us, along with Trace and William over the last 3 days, these neighborhoods are very spotty. And, there's some homes that remain while, the next 3 are burned to the ground. So people are really trying to look for answers. And, I said this on your show with Bill Hemmer earlier today. Now people are starting to get angry because people are dealing with tragedy. They don't know if they're dealing with loss. And Greg and I were talking about this. When will people in this region actually make a change? Because, Greg and I were talking about George Floyd. There is nothing more personal than losing your home. There is nothing more personal than losing all of your sentimental possessions that you can never, ever get back. Social justice, that's theoretical to a lot of people. That's also something that's not going to occur to them maybe in 3 weeks or 3 months. But losing everything hits you so deeply. And, the way she's so incredibly cavalier about this, bordering on incompetence, I think it's offensive, almost criminal.
You can almost feel the anger.
Yeah, I mean, if you want an endangered fish, I'd say it's the Karen Bass. Her career is up in flames. She called for unity amid this crisis. There is unity. Everybody there thinks you're a full-blown idiot who should resign. I do think you're going to see rage in the next couple of years, because you can't fight fire with platitudes, pronouns, and politics. You need practical solutions. And the people that offer practical solutions were ignored. Water management, forest management, power line safety, brush clearing, vegetation clearing. You don't fight it with a climate agenda, a DEI agenda, or even a political agenda. And you hear Democrats in the media criticizing Trump and others for speaking out as the tragedy unfolds, as if they don't do it during every mass shooting. But here's the difference. You can't speak out if you were warning people years before. Trump's no Johnny-come-lately on this. He was talking about this years ago. He warned Democrats. He offered them solutions, not platitudes, solutions. You can't accuse people of exploiting the political nature of a story if they were giving you advice well before it, publicly, to help you. And what did you guys do? Joe Biden called him a climate arsonist. He's offering practical solutions, and Biden is calling him an arsonist. And by the way, don't even bother blaming this on climate change, because that also offers no practical solutions either. That just offers you a phony virtue signal so you don't have to think about it. By the way, how does banning fossil fuels going to affect power lines? Can you explain to me? What are power lines for? I think it's electricity. Am I right? Yeah, to help to plug in your EVs. I watched some past video of Trump talking about wildfires and Biden talking about wildfires. It's a textbook contrast of liberalism versus conservatism. Platitudes versus practicality. Trump, again, emphasized action, clearing out a dry forest. Biden, again, called Trump a climate arsonist. So you have a practical response versus an emotional response. And emotional responses can work when things are fine. You can do DEI till the cows come home. But in a crisis, you need adults. You need adults with practical solutions. And I know that people are like, they're shouting DEI this and DEI that. Don't blame them for that, because the people that were shouting DEI first were the people doing it. They advertised that this was a priority. They shouted it from the rooftops. Look who we're hiring. This is a priority. So you can't then get that virtue signal reward, and then when people call you on it, go, oh my God, that's racist. Right now, we are in a crisis of competence, because we downgraded competence for complexion and for sexual identity. It's happening all over the place. You're going to see a state filled with rage when people realize they can't rebuild. There's no way, because the people in charge, also DEI related, won't let them.
Yeah, the climate change cannot be a get-out-of-jail-free card, which means you don't have to then do anything about it.
no one's talking about climate change anymore. She's still being treated like a baby, Bass. Imagine if DeSantis had been in Italy for some inauguration and had missed this hurricane that had wrecked Florida, and they were unprepared and they lacked resources. And he flew back days later and was like, you know what, we're going to wait a couple months for an assessment. Completely unacceptable. And for some reason, she's getting away with this. She was sent to Africa by Joe Biden. And she knew these Santa Ana winds were coming. She knows these winds stoke fire. It happens every single year. And she still went. And she's not cut out for this job. It's so obvious she's not a real leader. And now you have no water in the fire hydrants, and people are using garden hoses. I saw a guy pouring milk onto his fire. It's so unacceptable, and it's DEI, and it's also corruption. The last 3 people that ran this utility in LA, one was a DEI hire, First Native American. She was fired because she was such an idiot. Bass fired her. The other was caught taking bribes. He's in prison. And then the other one lost $40 million. So while all these people are focused on pronouns and fish you can't eat and, scrubbing white people from the fire department, they can't even focus on water and fire and human life. That's how pathetic this is. This is the wealthiest, most powerful state, almost, in the country. And they can't deliver basic human services. And you're right about liberals finally waking up to this. Inflation didn't affect them. Immigration doesn't really affect them. Crime doesn't really affect them. But when your house burns down and you have to rebuild it and you can't, that might wake them up.
Jessica, last word to you.
First of all, this is my first time being on TV since this happened. I feel absolutely heartbroken for everyone in California who's affected. My sister lives there, has luckily not had to be evacuated, but has friends who have lost homes. I'm hopeful that your home will be there definitively by the end of this. But it's just a terrible tragedy. I hate to see how this has played out on top of it, from how Karen Bass, behaved on the tarmac, not even being able to respond to the Sky reporter's questions. I think it is the easiest thing, or should be, for a public servant to just say, I'm completely heartbroken for the people of my city. You don't have to say this is my fault, or I shouldn't have gotten on that plane. That feels like a very normal first response that you could have. And the press conference obviously was not much better. But to Greg and Jesse's points about, this is because of DEI, or what we need is practical solutions. There is so much bad information swirling around about the main players involved in this, like the fire chief who's been called a DEI hire. I take her resume any day. 24-year vet, paramedic, engineer, fire inspector, captain, battalion chief, fire marshal, deputy chief. I don't know.
But you're proving my point.
No, I'm not proving your point.
Yes, you are. You're proving it because DEI makes everybody suspect. That is the problem. And you guys paraded it around. So now you put it in people's heads.
No, you put it in people's heads.
How? I didn't back DEI. I didn't back it.
Anyway, there's also, which I think is particularly the most damaging story, which is that there was $17 million cut from the fire budget. And that's also inaccurate. So last year's budget had an extra $17 million because they bought one-off expenses. These SCBAs for respiratory protection for firefighters and new suits. Those aren't in the new budget because you buy them once every several years. Also, there's an additional $50 million that's been set aside for the fire department. And when they were doing the budget negotiations, it wasn't finished. So that money is coming. There will actually be more money in the fire budget next year. In terms of the water.
That letter.
What letter?
The fire chief was complaining about the money. Was that just a fraud?
Well, this is the budget. People have actually gone through the budget versus the article in the New Republic or even the LA Times. Apparently, all 114 tanks were full of water that supplies to the water infrastructure filled. So there were pressure issues.
I don't believe that.
I understand you don't believe that, but I'm saying the LA Times is reporting these things.
Okay, then why did they run out of water?
They're not reporting that.
What they're doing is they're publishing the quote from the woman who runs the LADWP. I do not believe her. I do not believe her because
The reservoirs were empty, the fire hydrants were dry, the hoses were dry, and the tanker trucks were not there. It is all a lie. They're saying all this to cover their asses while everything burned, and now Joe Biden is talking about C-130s. Where the hell were they on Tuesday afternoon?
There should be full investigations of all of it, but it doesn't change the fact that there have been serious reported inaccuracies.
All right, we have more to come on it, too. So
Great.
it's not the last word.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.